This is the Startup Tri-Valley podcast, featuring in-depth conversations with the leaders who are making the Tri-Valley the go-to ecosystem for science-based startups. I'm Yolanda Fintschenko from Startup Tri-Valley. Well, today I'd like to welcome to the pod dear friend and advisor, Janelle Muranaka. She is the COO and co-founder of EazeBio and operations advisor for Daybreak Labs. Janelle, welcome to the pod.
Yeah, thank you so much. Pleasure to be here today.
So let's kick it off. If you could talk a little bit about what brought you into the world of startups and the Tri-Valley life sciences ecosystem.
Yeah, absolutely. Starting first with startups, I had the unique opportunity when I started my career, came out fresh with a degree in cell molecular biology. I was a bench scientist working in the labs, worked at a larger company called Maxigen. But then my team, which was the vaccine group, within my first year of my career, got privately acquired, and we magically became a 6-person company with no support, just 6 scientists, starting a company from the ground up, moving to incubator space, and just once in a lifetime opportunity, being in the right place at the right time, really. And so that is how I serendipitously entered the world of startups and quickly realized how passionate I was of just being creative and being a builder, both originally on the science side and then pretty quickly over the next few years as I continued to work at the lab bench, transition into business and operations, which really just came about witnessing while you can have great science and have really cool experiments and technology, you have to have a sustainable business to build a startup and to, continue to fund the company, support the scientists. And so it just began being curious and asking permission to spend time. Like, hey, do you mind if I spend part of my time solving these non-R&D problems? Mm-hmm. And then independently going out and asking questions on how we can build this better and bringing proposals to the team to get approval. So I had that unique experience pretty early on, and then that just drove my passion to stay in the smaller groups. So currently at EazeBio, it's my 4th startup where I've been employee number 2 or 3. Wow. And 2 of those I was co-founder, other was just early stage employees, but really coming in when it's a big black box and had to problem solve. And I think that's really where my passion lies. Having authority to make decisions, having authority to collaborate cross-functionally across different groups you might not normally get access to. Mm-hmm. And it's very empowering to really take ownership of your work that you're doing, which of course at a larger company you have as well, but I think it's a really unique experience in the startup space where you live or die by your decisions, and not everybody likes that, but for me that's really powerful. So that's how I entered into the world of startups, but then transitioned from the bench to the business side and just self-taught and living the experience both at different startups, government grant funded, bootstrapped as a customer research organization, and then my last one as a VC-backed startup. So just learning and growing and challenging myself. And in regards to the Tri-Valley life science ecosystem, I am a proud Tri-Valley native, grew up in Dublin and San Ramon, even lived a little bit in Livermore. So this region holds a close place in my heart. When I graduated and started my career, there weren't many opportunities out here. Mm-hmm. I would have loved to work out here, but it was really just big, the Roches, contract short-term jobs back then. And so I always found myself landing jobs in the South Bay or the Peninsula. And so when I transitioned into the business side and started networking a lot, going to a lot of events, obviously I was crossing bridges all the time and not getting to see my kids at night because I was at events and I had to commute back, but came across a Next Tech Speaker Series event, I think in 2016, here in Pleasanton. And that was my first time I met you, as well as Brandon and Hitch. And it was just an honest conversation with the founder about building their company, and I fell in love. I was like, these are my people, right? Mm-hmm. I lived in the Tri-Valley at that time, and I saw the passion, I saw the community. Everybody was so welcoming. When I walked up and introduced myself and connected, and I remember leaving that event just so invigorated. And I remember I called my dad and I was like, I want to start a biotech incubator in the Tri-Valley in the future. It just started me like thinking about what can be done locally, right? Mm-hmm. And from there, just, while I did work in the peninsula, it gave, partnering with Daybreak Labs, with iGate and Startup Tri-Valley gave me that opportunity to follow my passion and see regional growth, where it was just really exciting for me to see this continue to develop and build locally.
Yeah. Well, I remember meeting you in 2016, and that was the East Bay Bio Network event that was, I guess, funded by iGate. The Next Tech Speaker Series, that was my first time doing really community organizing around economic development. And that was super exciting for me. And I still remember meeting you and your willingness to pitch in. Mm-hmm. That was the thing that I remember, is that a lot of times people ask how they can help. And your request came with action, which so often it doesn't. And I remember organizing some very successful events together, including our inaugural Tri-Valley Life Sciences Summit in 2018. So, and just for the listener, Brandon Cardwell that you referenced was the original executive director at iGate, the one that we had both worked with before I took the position. And then Hitch is Greg Hitchen, who's the co-founder and managing partner of Tri-Valley Ventures, and has been a huge resource to founders in the region. And I remember very well talking to Brandon when iGate was talking about opening a hard tech incubator and how were we going to do it, and applying for the job of executive director and being very, very sure that I couldn't do it without help. And you volunteering to really bridge that gap. And that's, I know we're going to talk a little bit about this, but how you help Daybreak Labs companies, but maybe talk a little bit more about how you came to be involved with iGate, Daybreak Labs, and Startup Tri-Valley.
Yeah, absolutely. So it really stemmed from those initial events that I remember I went to a few different ones, and everyone was top notch, like amazing content, amazing connections. And me then following up with you and be like, oh, pleasure meeting you, would love to get coffee. And, and then Brandon had invited me to go to their new location, because they had just opened on 2nd Street. And it was when they were starting to plan, oh, what if we do life sciences here and have, wet lab space? So I took them up on the offer to check it out. And so it was very organic. That was not transactional. It was just like, cool, what are you building? What are you doing? Sure, let me know if you have any questions, if there's anything I can help with. And really just very organically grew out of, being impressed with what both of you were building in different aspects with East Bay Bio Network and iGate. And then your passion was just so palpable, and then it was just really fun sitting in a room together and brainstorming ideas, and then that's how the events came out of it, right? And through that, we built friendships and co-conspiratorships. Right. And, honestly, in terms of the more recent involvement with Daybreak Labs, I remember during COVID just checking in, right? And I think with Brandon, every once in a while, like if he was touring new space when looking for a new facility, I would join just to give my 2 cents on, would this be feasible for a BSL-2 facility? So just all as a friend, right? Not as, anything, just how can I help, right? I've supported a couple different lab moves in my previous companies. So it was just something I felt really comfortable. I know the pain points and the things you need to consider. So I was like, yeah, let me know how I can help. And then I do remember with the current location, I was super excited when I think the lease was signed. And then I was like, oh, can I see the building specs, right? Let me look at the HVAC. Let me look at the, layout design. And it was never like even you guys necessarily coming like, hey, Janelle, we need this. It was just honest conversations. And I think that community support, which I think is really unique to the Tri-Valley, I feel. I mean, I've participated in a lot of different networking events throughout the region, whether, like Berkeley area or in the Peninsula or South Bay. And like you said, not just in our own kind of small group, but just beyond, right? Whenever we host a summit, it's always people just really want to step up and pay it forward, especially like planning the summits and all the speakers we bring in. They just really see the value and they want to help others in the region.
Yeah, I think as you point out, I mean, you're in the community you built, right? So,
which I feel like the day that happened, I feel like you were really excited.
Well, yes. Yes, I feel like the Tri-Valley has been hoping to lure you here to a life sciences company for a long time. And, but, I think it is really important to highlight that, like you said, you're right. I don't know that there were many asks. It was a lot of you being interested, curious, and then saying, hey, have you thought about this? Or do you know how you're going to handle X, Y, and Z? And if the answer was no, well, would you like me to give you a template or, connect you to this person? And I think very action oriented, not poking holes in the plan, but actually because of your domain expertise, being able to come in and your questions all came from a place of curiosity. And when you recognized you were coming up against, a response that reflected a real lack of knowledge, right? Or a lack of a connection, to just fill it in immediately. Yeah. So if you couldn't do it because you were working full time, to make the necessary introduction, to bring that vendor to somebody's attention, to, put that advisor into like Brandon's space or my space immediately to not even solve a problem, to just gain the expertise we needed.
And I think that's I had the unique experience to be like a direct support in that case in terms of building out the new facility. Right. I've done that a few times for my other companies, similar square footage. I mean, BSL2 lab. For me, it was like plug and play. I was like, boom, here's the list. Like, this is who you need to talk to. Like, so I think versus like, I know you could have done it, but it just would have taken longer because you had to do a lot of research. And it was time sensitive. It really was like, we need to get this done as soon as possible. So for me, it was just a simple matter of, okay, here's a list. Here's some introductions, like you said, and or even just placing the orders on your behalf because I have the contact. It's just I have the relationship, and I have some amazing partners that I really love and I've worked with multiple times, and they were passionate as well. They were really excited to support the Tri-Valley region as well. So I think that's something that's really beautiful here, that it's not only individuals, but it's also the companies as well that are very supportive, such as sponsors for the summits or service providers providing their time at Daybreak Labs, at Lunch and Learns. It's just a very unique experience.
Yeah, no, definitely. And we, it is interesting. There has been an element of building the plane as we fly it.
Yes, which is common. That's part of startup life, build in real time.
And this kind of brings me to something I've observed about you, and we've sort of hovered around the edges of talking about it, and maybe you could expand on it. I know this is this is a strong principle for me. I know it's something we've talked about as something that attracted you to EazeBio Network when we started out, and I think was already part of iGate, and is something hopefully we've carried through as a principle and is part of being what's unique in the Tri-Valley. But you share a passion for equitable access to this 100%. Network, and I'm curious about why is that important to you? What's motivating it, and honestly, how do you see that playing out?
I'm not gonna lie, I got chills when you said that, just because it is just something that really resonates with me, and I'm very passionate because I was that day one startup founder and I was very young. I was early in my career, not a traditional founder, and so I think for me, it's just like I have seen the pain in trying to, build from day one. I've also gone through the pain of reaching out for help when I didn't know. And there's some amazing champions I found who are like, let me help you, right? And let me guide you. It won't cost you anything. Let me give you some, 2 cents that you can use and then run with it. And then versus I've seen the other side where it's like, okay, well, if you want to attend our event, it's $150 and, it's like a prestige thing, and which is great. It's just, there's different modes out there, but for me, what really resonates is connecting with individuals where there's humility, there's no like ranking or hierarchy. It's just really this organic wanting to build together. And if you have shared passions. And so for me, I loved the fact when I first came across EazeBio Network and Next Speakers, they were all free events. Of course, I love the fact they were local. Right. But, as somebody who, that was important to me. Like, I was at a startup. Any costs were coming out of my own pocket, not the company's. And so that meant a lot to me. And I also love the fact that at our events, anybody can attend. It's not, you have to be an executive, right? It's, open to the public. You don't even have to be in the space if you want to. People who are early in career, looking for jobs, but it is actually pretty high density of executives. But at those events, you're just getting these connections and relationships that are being built across the spectrum. And I find it so powerful because I feel like the most growth I've had in my career was not taking coursework or reading a book, but it's having honest conversations with people who have lived it. So talking to experienced founders. So having access to those type of people where I could pick their brain. And so attending those events, I always would go up after and introduce myself to the speakers typically. And I would message them on LinkedIn and I'd be like, hey, I would love to grab coffee and have a conversation. And sometimes people ignore you, but also a lot of times people say yes. And not only learning from those founders and having their true grit and like honest conversations at the event, but then being able to have those one-on-one conversations and really like pick their brain to, just kind of either address specific problems I have or just like hear their own stories. And so I think that's where that equitable access comes in, where, at the time, like I said, I was much younger in my career, and I wasn't a C-suite at the time, right. And but being able to have those really happy connections and was important to me. And I think the other flip side of that is there is a reality that there tends to be a bias on who's invested in. Right. And so that was really important to me. I'm a big believer that good ideas come from anywhere. And so I love that Daybreak is just really supporting people to have it might not just be your traditional startup founder, right? And I know a lot of times VCs want serial founders, and there's having an opportunity that anyone with a good idea and the passion and determination to give it a shot. So I think that's something that's really important to me too, that making not only the events equitable and accessible, but also Daybreak Labs is a really cost-effective resource that day one founders can come in and start tinkering on their innovative ideas.
Absolutely.
So with a pretty, it's not, definitely a very good, price point that allows them to have some breathing room.
Absolutely. And access to a network, right, of advisors like you, and then the networks that every advisor brings in. Mm-hmm. So for people who aren't clear, for our listeners, what does it mean to be an operations executive in the life sciences, and how maybe you could talk a little bit about how that plays out in advising Daybreak Labs and Daybreak Labs companies?
Yeah, absolutely. I have so many conversations around this. Operations means something different to everybody. But my response is that you're ensuring that company has the necessary resources and utilizes those resources appropriately to execute on your company strategy and milestones. So whatever your company is, the playbook's going to be different. Your resources are going to be different. Your needs are going to be different. But you as an operator need to ensure that you're partnering with the team to integrate the business side, what resources we have, which means people, money, infrastructure, and then on the technology side, what are we developing? Does it require clinical development? What are the timelines? What are the big inflection points to be able to raise money? So you need to understand the science and the technology and the steps to build that technology, and then you need to also know the business side, and then you meld them together, because otherwise they're two different silos. Like finance does whatever they want and like, oh, here's a cool projection, but then the scientists may not always have a path to communicate effectively. Be like, well, but if this doesn't work, we have to start back, and it puts us back 3 months, and then that changes the timeline, which changes the burn rate, which ties into finances and projections. So operations is just being that integrator, right? In terms of startup operations, for me, you're wearing a lot of different hats. You have to be dangerous enough across all the different functional areas, whether I'm talking to somebody about IT, building a BSL-2 lab, hiring. I love talking contract negotiation, legal. So I have to be able to support a wide range of operations, from R&D operations, like the lab, the supplies. I've never been written up on any inspection over the many years, to site operations, running a facility, janitorial, lease negotiations. And then my main area of focus now is business operations. So finance, HR, legal, corporate governance, just all of those things. And so how I support startups is that none of that exists and so I think for me, it's really being strategic about what do we build first, what is more time sensitive, and then tying that into strategy on how, like, who are we as a company, what are we building, who do we need to bring in as advisors or consultants to support us, and then doing so in a way that's lean, and ensuring that, we're minimizing our resources until we've successfully fundraised. And so for me, it's really a push and pull, because time is money, right? And so at a startup, you want to move fast because you want to raise money fast, you want to get to the market fast, you want to be competitive. But usually that costs more money. You need a lot of upfront, right? To do so. And then balancing that with, okay, what resources do we have, and what's the most value we can get with those resources? So identifying with the team, okay, well, this feasibility data is going to really allow us to go out and have a stronger pitch, right? Because now we have validation around our technology. How much is it going to cost to do that? Do we have it? Can it be done in-house versus outsourced? So that's a different price point and different timeline. So it's just, that's the thing. Operations, you're doing a lot of different supporting activities, but it's all about risk mitigation, program management, strategy, resource allocation, and tying it all into finance. And so that's really how I support early stage company. But it's also grunt work. Like, like, don't even get me started about, I mean,
we literally built the lab benches side by side.
Yes. And I made that decision because those lab benches, the unassembled ones, they were high quality, but they were unassembled. But it allowed your money to go a lot further, and we were able to buy other equipment versus if I had bought the assembled ones, it would have been like double or triple the cost.
Right.
And then shipping and having them delivered in your space and fitting through your door was painful. So I know it's not fun to assemble, but it solved multiple,
It did, and it worked. I mean, it was a family affair. I think I had my family and yours there to help, as well as other volunteers, other entrepreneurs who came in to help us. And so there's grunt work, and but thinking about and how you help set us up as well. I do recognize is, even for our operations, which we're never going to scale in the sense that Daybreak Labs was never going to be, we're not a single company, we're an incubator. We have, in some ways, a little bit of a static components, like a lot of different companies. So there's challenges there, but it's not like we're going to go to Series A, right? Yeah. Having said that, your experience, and I remember having this discussion where you were saying, like, eventually this is going to be too much to do it one at a time. And so there was an element of, how do you do the grunt work? How do you set up templates for how to do your grunt work so that it can actually scale as you scale? Because sure, processing, people's intake forms or training or any of those things that we had to keep track of one at a time seems easy when you're onboarding one company a month. But what if something happens like last month where we onboarded 3, right? And you have to, I think you really helped us see that there's, even when your scale is never going to be, 10,000 people, there's value in putting upfront work into something that's going to be relatively easy to scale.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm a big believer in fit for use systems and processes, but also keep it simple. There's so many tools out there and software, which are great, but it's a balance between, yes, in the early days, when it's like brand new, just manual, get it done. There's other things that are probably going to be more time sensitive and critical to solve, like when you are onboarding one. But recognize that once it becomes, you're like, I am not scalable, right? Once you realize that pain point is hitting. Simple solutions. And honestly, one thing which I'm really big on, and people probably think is stupid, documentation, IT, storage infrastructure, which sounds very boring and mundane. It will save so much time in your life if you just have a system, have everything just really seamless and easy to access, because otherwise, or even just like the way you name files. And I know this sounds really boring and like menial, but I'm dealing with this right now. I'm going through all these historical receipts and they're different names, right? Like it's just like, might just say 001. So like opening every one, and then I rename it, the date and year, month, day, and then vendor name, boom, done. So that it automatically sorts in chronological order. So then if you're ever doing a spreadsheet, it's just like super easy.
Right.
So like for me, I've just learned from day one, I just automatically name things like that, right? Because otherwise you're going to shoot yourself in the foot later.
Yeah.
So I know this sounds boring and people think, well, it's sexy to go talking to investors and raising money. But guess what? When you are out pitching, when you're out trying to raise money, there will be due diligence. What is due diligence? They're going to be, let me see your data room so I can look at your corporate records, and I want to look at your historical financials, and I want to look at all of your executed contracts. Do you have them? And so for me, it's all about acceleration and not losing momentum. And if you're having a conversation with an investor and you can't find your files, you can't find your EIN, incorporation, your articles of certification, or if you can't find all your receipts of your historical financials, then you have to pull it together and you're going to like get sleepless nights. And then you're going to lose momentum because you can't turn around and be like, here it is. So I'm really big at being proactive. Even if you're a two-person startup, have all of your paperwork in a line. Dot your I's, cross your T's, because it's not only just about organization, but it's empowering momentum, and it's showing confidence to the investors that you know how to run a business. Because that's something for me in operations and once you start going out talking to investors, or once you have a board of directors, they want to feel fully confident that you know what you're doing, right? And that what you say is going to do or is going to happen, and that it's not just about cool products and cool technology, but it's about running and building a sustainable business, and you're spending their money.
Right.
So I think that's where I'm passionate about operations, because I think it's very underrated, but it's super powerful when an investor's like, wow, like you just turn that around. There's a beautiful data room broken down into all different sections, and I can view everything, and then they can just come back with their questions, and it's just seamless. So yeah, I can geek out about that. But it's not glamorous and doesn't, get recognition typically, but it's fun for me because I think it's just empowering the founders to drive innovation.
Right. Well, and that complementarity is important because it's just something that I think is often hard for other people to do. And it's something that ignites
Nobody wants
your
to do
passion.
It.
So, what motivated you to donate your time to help build a startup ecosystem in the Tri-Valley, especially in operations? And how are you translating that to what you're giving back?
Yeah. I mean, honestly, it just came out of Pay It Forward. I had amazing people support me in my journey, and I was really grateful for those individuals, those service providers that really gave me a lot of help when, even just little things like, what do I need to do for BSL2 waste? Or, how do I do, these inspections, or how to, it's just like all these different things. It's just, nobody knows how to do this inherently. And even if you have an MBA, like they don't teach this, they teach the high level strategy.
Right.
They don't teach the day to day on how to run a business typically. I mean, certain aspects. So honestly, it was for me, I was just motivated. And I think not only was it a Pay It Forward, but I think also just the people. So you, Brian, Brandon, and, I think we all share like the similar mindset, and it was reciprocal, right? So like you said, how you were like, oh, well, you took action. Well, you took action too, right? And so I think for me, that was really empowering that all of us, everybody was like, I got you, let me pitch in, and everybody said they were going to do it, and they did it. And I mean, that's how we pull off the summit year after year, right?
Which you are a co-organizer for, I should mention, for the Startup Tri-Valley, now Startup Tri-Valley Life Sciences Summit. So
yeah, and I mean, it's a passion project, and I've just motivated because it feels very honest, and it just feels very purposeful. It's, it's not transactional. Right. Of course, we all are in, like we're looking to build a network or whatever, but it's never like, oh, I want to do this to like, talk to that person. It's always just like, this is something really cool, and we want to build it together, and everybody holds their own weight. And that's actually with team collaborations, my favorite teams is that when it's equal and everybody's pulling their weight. And so I think for me, I get motivated by that. It's the people, and it's not just our small group, but it's just all the builders, all the founders, everybody who comes and do the lunch and learns, all the advisors, like everybody. It's just very, like I said, they have humility and just really,
and it's very personal.
Give,
I think because so many people have a personal connection to the Tri-Valley. Either they live here or they were from here, and they really are seeing, building the future that they want to experience.
Yes. And what we wish, for myself, like I mentioned, like this didn't exist, 15 years ago when I was looking. So I would have loved it because I wouldn't have had to spend 2-3 hours a day driving. So, yeah. So, talk a little bit about how you've interacted with Daybreak Labs as an advisor and what you've learned actually through advising. Yeah, absolutely. I do have to say I'm probably a little bit of a unique advisor since I think came in day one. I also think a lot of my focus came in on advising Daybreak, which then helps support all the other founders. But I think for me, it's just definitely coming in just to make sure there's resources available, having honest conversations, not, because I'm not a consultant. I'm not going to come in and do a project for you. Like, you're not going to say, okay, well, I need this done, and I'm going to go sit down and get a spreadsheet out and knock it out, right? It's really just going to be having honest conversations, helping the founders come to their own conclusions, right? And, but just here's my 2 cents, or, based on things I've experienced, or, oh, have you considered this? Why are you doing this? What type of company do you want to build? And I think by asking those questions, it allows the founders to really just kind of parse out their own answers. So I think that's what I've really gained out of it. It's not so much, let me tell you how to do this, but really having those honest conversations to like reflect on what they're building. And then when we find pain points, well, oh, I know a guy, let me, so, or, hey, I'm not too sure, but I might have somebody that I can reach out to understand a bit more. So I think for me, it's really about, having those conversations and helping connect vision to execution.
Right.
So I think that's the other thing, is just like helping people like talk through, okay, priorities. I'm like, well, do you really need to be doing that right now? Like, is that the best way to be using resources? So for me, it's a little bit different than maybe some other technical consultants or technical advisors. For me, it's just, I think, being a serial entrepreneur, living through a couple different startups, different modalities, as well as at my last company, Mesa Vaccines, going all the way through for phase 1 clinical development, exposed me to a lot that I could help provide, insights, or I have connections in that space, in the regulated space. So that's really where, my interactions with the founders, doing the lunch and learns here and there, right? In terms of building strategic operational frameworks, and just getting people to kind of recognize that the value of building out this infrastructure early on.
Processes. And it sounds, so if I understand you correctly, what you've really found in working with the founders is you've learned to help founders by maybe asking some, well-timed, well-pointed questions, helping them prioritize where they need to marshal their resources to sort of meet the demands of the moment and the vision of their company. And as you said, kind of connect their vision to execution really through prioritization. And then from that, identifying, okay, if these are pain points where you lack connections, expertise, here's who I know who could maybe point you in the right direction.
Yeah, absolutely. So, and that's the beauty about the large number of advisors at Daybreak, that there's somebody in different areas. So, I mean, not only even before joining EazeBio, I would attend the Daybreak lunch and learns just from my own education, hearing from different, founders or other leaders in the region. But then selfishly now as a founder, oh, you have a regulatory advisor coming in to speak? Yes.
So it's a perfect segue. Talk about a little bit about your role now.
No, thank you. So I am currently, as you mentioned, the COO and co-founder at EazeBio. I joined Reem Marat, who's the founder. She's an amazing serial entrepreneur, have exited a few successful diagnostics company. And this actually came out of happy connections related to Daybreak. So Reem is also a Daybreak Labs advisor, as well as an executive in residence. And I had met her through the network, being introduced by you. And we had, spoken a few times and knew of each other and of our backgrounds. And she spoke on the panel at our Tri-Valley Life Science Summit.
And that was last year, right?
Last year, in October. And basically, through the happy connections of interacting with her through the Daybreak Labs environment, as well as through the summit, following up with her afterwards, like, wow, you did a really amazing job on the panel. We really appreciate your time and effort that you put into preparing, and we got amazing feedback. Thank you so much. Got a response. It's like, oh, I have some ideas. Let's meet, right? And that's what took off. And, originally it was just advisory opportunity, right? She was starting to build a new company and wanted to get my 2 cents, but quickly grew from there. And so just really seeing her passion, really great synergy working together. And it kind of quickly became apparent, like, oh, like, this might be cool to build together. And we, beyond just us, we have an amazing team. So there's a DD and Ying, as well as other co-founders. So it's just an amazing group of women who are all very passionate about seeing what we're building. And so we're focused on, we're a precision and digital health company focused on preventative diagnostics for metabolic stress. So really just, reducing the future risk of disease burden by, having additional personal data that you can monitor over time to ensure that you're at your best self, and that if your levels ever get elevated for metabolic stress, that you can take action and make changes in your lifestyle, because chronic metabolic stress leads to oxidative damage, chronic inflammation, then can lead to diabetes, cardiovascular disease. So while it's not saying, yes, today, we're testing for diabetes,
right,
it's really just, it's just like if you were to weigh yourself on the scale or monitor your BMI over time. It's just empowering you with that personalized data and your own trends to allow you to make decisions that, hey, I need to be healthier to be able to reduce my future risk of disease. So it's something that we're passionate about. We all have personal stories and journeys dealing with doctors. And I think, we see that the future is digital healthcare, and also just a lot more empowering and personalized options. There's wearables that markets continue to grow as well. And that's something we're really passionate about long term. So just leveraging our passion to build something where you see there's an unmet need, and worked out really well that we have amazing, local connections.
Right.
And I think just tying it back to the network and the region, why it's so successful is that it's the people who have the right backgrounds, right? Like, we all bring something different to the table, both technical and business. Amazing vendors, like we've gone to local manufacturers and can go to their sites, and it's great that we can walk in there and have conversations. And there's amazing service providers who have like a lot of experience in life sciences, as well as early stage company like Engine Room, right? Based here in Pleasanton, who I've worked with personally, and just amazing opportunity to support day one founders. And so it's kind of that right mix of all the resources are here. We have Daybreak Labs here now, so we have the physical infrastructure, the lab, the BSL2 space, the equipment. So it's really exciting time. So I'm really excited to see.
So you're basically benefiting from the Tri-Valley ecosystem that you helped build.
I mean, it's funny when you think back to our conversations. Like, we always, like, when you get one or a few of us in a room, we just start brainstorming and like think of all these crazy ideas.
Right, and we made many of them happen.
Yeah, I mean, and once again, it was never like, oh, I'm gonna like write down this execution plan and I'm gonna but it was very organic, right? Once again, it's just like, I think that's the beauty of these relationships, this community, that it just evolves and it's just continuing to ramp up because everybody is just so giving and like allowing it to kind of grow. And I mean, when you look over the past, look at Daybreak today versus like 5-10 years ago, right? In the early days. And just when you see that evolution, think about next 5 to 10 years.
Right.
Like, that's really exciting.
It is really exciting, especially because, and I think at every step of the way, there's so much of what you said is really built on this sort of relationships, generosity, shared vision, a little bit feeling like you're going to have to live with the decisions you make and not just personally, but regionally. And I think that I think that is definitely something that we see, the vision of the original iGate founders and everything, the company's participation, everything, it's, continues to revolve around this kind of relationship-based and personal, and something that's also visionary and aspirational, which is pretty exciting.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So I have big hopes for the next few years.
So what do you love about living and working here in the Tri-Valley?
I am a Tri-Valley native. I grew up here. I'm raising my kids here. I am loving the work-life balance. I've never had such a short drive. Obviously, everything we already touched base on, right? The people and the resources. But I think for me, as somebody who's always loved living in the Tri-Valley, even when people are like, well, why don't you move to the Peninsula? I'm like, no, I'm a Tri-Valley. Like, I live over by the farms and over in San Ramon and the hills and the trails. It's so beautiful here. I want to raise my kids here. And so I think it's just really wonderful having that work-life balance, the flexibility. I've sacrificed a lot in my career, so this is like the dream for me. And then being able to do it with people that I love, so that's great.
So talk a little bit about that balance. You are, you're a wife, you're a mom, you're a co-founder, you're a Daybreak Labs advisor. You're volunteering your time for Startup Tri-Valley. How are you handling that?
I think it comes, one, passion. I care. Like, I've learned, I definitely historically have taken on too much, right? And now I'm at a happy balance where, like, okay, I've learned what time I can give and I'm setting better boundaries. So, and I'm like, I understand what commitments I'm getting. And so I think that's something that's been important to me. It's evolved. I wasn't as good at it, and I would like overcommit and be like, start drowning because I'm like, oh my goodness. My kids are a bit older. That helps.
It does help.
So entering into teens. So a little bit more freedom there. But I think for me, it's great. I have my allocated time for each. Obviously work is all the time. And then it's just really just blocking out time accordingly, right? Like as today, I have a few hours blocked. And then when we ever have our Tri-Valley Life Science Summit, it's just we have our set schedule. We're never doing things last minute rush where I have to like dedicate like an enormous amount of time. It's just very spread out, and I can just kind of carve out little pockets here and there. And it's always value adding everything, and it's motivating when you're collaborating with other people in these different kind of passion projects.
Right.
If I wasn't passionate about it, it wouldn't work. So for me, it's super fun. Yeah. So you make time. It's just like a hobby, right? So I think that's how I'm able to balance it. Just like every other working mom, trying to figure out cleaning the house and taking care of the kids, the pets, school, and all that. So, everybody has to deal with that. But
it's just like you're advising founders, for yourself, you've doubled down on prioritization and
schedules. I do a lot of gardening. I have a lot of pets, and I just have my schedule of when I take care of them all.
So as a COO and advisor, what opportunities and challenges do you see in the next 5 years for the Tri-Valley startup ecosystem?
Yeah. I think we're really at an inflection point where we're going to be able to move pretty quickly here. We're already seeing significant growth in the ecosystem. We have the people, we have the incubator infrastructure, and I think what I'm seeing really is kind of like the scaling infrastructure is what I think is kind of we're at that next inflection point. So we already have these big companies here. There's some larger facilities that are turnkey or need some work, but we need that middle ground where companies who have founded at Daybreak Labs and got their proof of concept data and are out fundraising now need independent 1,000 to 5,000 square feet space. So I think that's something where if you're in the peninsula, it's easier to find that turnkey. But even in the peninsula, that under 10,000 is hard to find. It's always like, oh, here's 100,000 or here's 50,000 square feet facility. So I think that's something is going to be a challenge, especially converting spaces. I think the Tri-Valley region is not as many turnkey R&D spaces available. And a challenge for startups is that they don't have the capital to go in and say, hey, we're going to do $200,000 in space improvements.
Right.
And depending on the market, TIAs, so tenant improvement allowances, it varies. Some markets, they offer those. Other times, they don't.
Right.
So it just depends on the period. And so I think that's something where I think some creative solutions in the near future. And I know there's just, always conversations ongoing about that.
Right.
Like, how do we start and grow regionally? So there is that gap that will need to be filled. But I think there's a lot of spaces here in the Tri-Valley that are really suitable for those spaces. It's just a matter of getting them up and running.
Yeah.
Finding a partnership or collaboration to be able to get them. So spec suites where, so with a spec suite, developers will build like a really basic lab, which is suitable for most companies. So not putting in all the bells and whistles, but just can be easily updated and it's BSL ready, just not customized. So
Right.
I've seen those, at my last company, we moved into a spec suite, but then did do some upgrades, but it really made the process a lot faster. So I think that's something developers can think about in having these kind of simplified spaces that are easily converted, but already have a lot of the legwork done.
Okay, interesting. And that's even, I think it's a great point you're bringing up, because right now we're at an unusual time where there's sort of depression in the life sciences market. So seeing a lot of companies go out of business and subleases, and even with that, you're seeing that this is a gap.
Yeah, I mean, I think the problem with subleases. So I'm operations, so I think risk mitigation. So this is a personal opinion. With subleases, you are beholden to the leaseholder, and depending what happens to their company. So I personally, if I can choose between a sublease or a direct lease, but a smaller space, I would choose the latter, because I have power control versus when you do a sublease, you can't make changes. If they're also in the space, I've toured so many subleases, because when I was considering for a company, it can be awkward in how you're sharing the space if they're still there. If they go out of business, or if there's issues with the main leaseholder company, it can impact you, and you might have no power over. There could be liabilities that arise if something happens and some equipment blows up. They're like, wait, who did that? And it's just. Right. I've seen a lot. And so if I had the choice, but like I said, this is my personal opinion, and everybody has their own 2 cents, but that's why I love the power of those modular
the spec suite,
because people just can come in, add the equipment that's more custom equipment they need, and then it's a great interim solution that could last easily for 5 years until scaling. So, and then it's easily ready for the next person to come in. Right.
So, I think we're at the last few questions. What, in your opinion, makes a good advisor or who makes a good, what attributes, I guess, are you think of when you think of a good advisor for Daybreak Labs?
Yeah, I think I mentioned this, humility. I think somebody who just wants to help. It's not coming in and having an ego or saying, this is how to do it. It's just really having honest conversations. I think somebody who's just open to collaboration, somebody who's open to sharing ideas, somebody who's open to warm introductions and, just leveraging, your experience and your support, but knowing that it's not project-based. It's not transactional. There's not an exchange of, equity, or, it's just, it's truly altruistic and just wanting to help. And I think somebody who's just knows going in that they're paying it forward and wanting to support the vision and ecosystem, and then obviously has this a unique skill set. And I think having something that's clearly defined, it is hard if somebody is like, well, I can do these 20 different things. Right. I mean, operations, I do kind of do a lot, but that's what operations is. But I think, are you a regulatory? Are you finance? Are you legal? Or, what is like, I think also if somebody has like their passions, like, so for me, I lead with strategic startup operations framework. Like that's kind of like my golden ticket. That's like kind of my unique thing that I really can have a conversation around. So it might not just be like, I would say not just be broad, like, oh, I'm a financial advisor, but what little nuance within that can specifically support, like, what have you supported or what have you seen in the space that could really provide value? Like maybe you've negotiated a lot of safe notes for companies. Like that could be your niche, right? So I think that's something very specific and detailed kind of expertise that is relatable to startups in addition to just the broader sense is helpful.
Yeah, and that's such a good point, because I was reflecting back on when we met for our EazeBio Network, and I think one of the things that impressed me is when you offered to help, you gave me 3, I think, concrete ways you could help, and I could pick one of them, and it is incredibly helpful to. It's great. I mean, most people have maybe more than one expertise, but it's nice to have narrowed it down and said, these are the areas where I think I can be most useful, where my network is most useful, and where I'm willing to put the time in, because that's the other piece of it, right? Yeah. Maybe there's something that you do and you get paid to do, and you're like, I only get paid to do this. Exactly. I won't. I'm not going to do this as an advisor. I will do this if you hire me, but I'll do these 2 other things to help you get your company started.
Yeah, I mean, even just thinking about the build out of the current Daybreak, like I had completed the space planning and build out in Mesa, and once it was done, it was done. But I love doing that stuff. It's fun for me, but I no longer in my own role had a need to use that skill set anymore. So I remember I was like, oh, I'm super excited. I get to do another build out and help. So it's like, it's a hobby, right? So it's something, it's like you said, you don't want to be doing things that, you don't want to invest your time in.
Right.
Because
time is very valuable. Yeah. And, you touched a little bit about this, but what do you feel like you're an advisor, you're a founder. What do you feel like the value of Daybreak Labs is to founders, but also to advisors and the other parts of the startup ecosystem?
I think just building that community and having resources in different areas of people you can turn to. I mean, so many people I've met through Daybreaks as either they were advisors or they came in just to speak and then turned into advisors, and now we've partnered with them, right, at EazeBio. So I think it's just bringing in this like brain trust, right? Like we're building like this community, we're building this knowledge base without having to have it in writing. Like, it's about bringing in everyone who can help expedite and accelerate startup growth, because we can have that linked network where go talk to this person, go talk to this person. And I think that's what's really powerful, because, and also like trying to do your own research. I mean, I've met a couple different regulatory advisors through Daybreak. And of course, you as a founder, you always do your own research and your own due diligence. But then being able to reach out and be like, well, this is what I've done to educate myself. What are your thoughts? Or am I off base? So I think that's another thing for advisors to think about. It's not like, oh, doing the work, but it's a lot of time is just being there as a sounding ground for the founders to be like, because the whole point is that founders, like, you need to do your own hard work. Right. It's grit and, you know, it's painful. But it's validating to have that confirmation, like, my assessment's correct. Right. Or if not, let me point
what am I missing? Yeah. What have I overlooked?
So I think that as a founder, that's really powerful. and also reduces the anxiety around a lot of the work that you're doing. And as an advisor, just amazing people that I'm meeting, and you never know the connections you make. I mean, I don't even want to spend the time diving into, but the number of times I've met people through EazeBio Network, Next Tech, iGate, Daybreak, all of that then turned into these beautiful relationships. Or I've worked with people, right, that I've hired people from that network. So I think you just never know what it's going to turn into. And so I think that as an advisor is a beautiful thing to see.
That's wonderful. So is there anything I didn't ask that you'd like to talk about?
I think the only thing I'd close with is just, it's not limited to the group that's building. Like, anybody can be a community builder, right? And anybody can really participate and join in. So I think that's just something I encourage. None of us like it was just all like, hey, let's give this a shot. So I think, we're really open about that. And I really encourage others to join in or even start their own, cool ideas. And I think it's just more powerful the more people that are involved. So
well, this has been an amazing conversation. I'm thinking about when we met in 2016, and never in a million years did I picture we'd be sitting across microphones from each other on a podcast talking about that. So thank you for making that, for coming to the event, for reaching out, for proposing that first coffee, and for everything you've done for the Tri-Valley startup ecosystem, for Daybreak Labs. And thank you for your time today on the pod.
Yeah, thank you. Likewise, it's been an amazing journey, and it's been really fun, and really grateful for everything that's grown out of the amazing relationships. So, yeah, it's been wonderful.